What's going on, button pushers? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about split toning, temperature, and color calibration in Lightroom to take your photo from looking like this to looking like this.
ありがとうございました。
If you guys are new to the channel, my name is David. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. Again, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than my usual videos. We're going to go into an editing process. Now, again, we're going to be using split toning, temperature, and color calibration to turn an image that looks like this into an image that looks like this. So to speed up the process, I've already taken the liberty of editing anything lighting wise and everything else that comes down to the photo except for the temperature, the split toning, and the color calibration, as well as the HSL color. So if you're curious as to what I've already started doing, I've added some exposure to brighten up the photo a bit. I've taken away some highlights, shadows, and whites to kind of give it a little bit more of a faded look, as well as adjusted the curves to add a little bit of a faded look as well. And then I've also taken the liberty of adding texture about 20, and then taking away some clarity about 21 as well, so I can soften that photo a bit without losing any of the detail in the skin and everything else in the photo. I've added profile corrections. I've added 89 sharpening, and I have also added about 49 grain. And that's pretty much all I've done for this photo. So from here, we're just gonna go into the temperature, the HSL color, the split toning, and the color calibration. To start off, I want to say that there's two things that you need to make sure that you have if you want a photo like this, where you can mess around with the split tones a lot without changing too much. The only two things that allowed me to edit a photo like this is one, the light source. The light source is super warm. As you can see, it completely makes this entire section orange, as well as this shadow back here. The shadow is the second thing that I'm going to need to be able to make a photo like this. Now, the darker the shadow, the better. We shot this around 3 p.m. So I've actually shot this at a shutter speed of 1/400 at an aperture of 1.6 and an ISO of 400. Now, this allowed me to get a nice little darker area even during a really sunny, natural lit 3 p.m. type sun. Having your settings set in camera changes a lot because it allows you to get a specific shot that you might not be able to get otherwise. You need to make sure that when you're shooting, you are aware of how you might want to edit it, and if you're trying to go for a look like this, you just need to make sure you set it up right. Anyways, let's go into the temperature. So I'm just going to make it a little bit more cool tone, and you can already see that this shadow area is changing, but also a little bit of this area here where the light is hitting, but we're going to fix that up. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more green so it has a little bit more of a teal kind of look, and we're just gonna set it around there. So I think I like this look here. And from here, we're actually just gonna jump into the HSL color, make a few adjustments when it comes down to hues and everything. So I'm gonna fix up this warm light to make it a little bit more like orangey and bring up some saturation. Normally I don't really do too much yellow in my photos, but I wanted to add it here because it is that main source of light. Now we're going to go into the orange and do just the same thing, kind of change up the hues for a good color that we might like, bring up the saturation a little bit to increase that intensity, and then maybe mess around with the luminance just a bit. The split toning is a really important part. Now, Lightroom normally shows the split toning looking like this, and it's super hard. They used to be different, but now it's like this, circles. So to get out of this 3 circle look, you just click here, and it'll take you individually to the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights. A lot of my friends didn't know that, and I didn't even know that until about last month. Now, I use these here, and I actually use my keyboard. I hold Shift and do the up or down arrow keys, and that just adds 10, and it really helps out a bit. So we're actually gonna do a little bit more of a dramatic thing because we're going for a lot of colors. So I'm actually gonna bump this to 50, but normally I'd say keep it around like 20 or below. After we do that, we're gonna drag this over to like the blue kind of side. So either like down here, up here with the teals, depending on what you really want as far as color goes. And then we're just gonna drag this bar down a little bit to darken those blacks so we get some like really crushed blacks here. Now we're gonna go over to the midtones and maybe add like 40, and we're just gonna do this to kind of like add again more blue, but also fix up the skin tones a little bit so we kind of mesh this orange and this blue together. Now you could even go as far as going on the other side to add it to the midtones, and honestly I kind of like that, but at the same time I feel like I really still want these darker blues, so we're gonna stick to that and we're gonna fix it up a little bit, and I'll show you how just in just a sec right after done with these highlights. And we're just gonna add, I think I'm gonna add like 20 highlights and then make it again blue. That way we get like a little bit of a really deep cool tone. And then maybe we're even gonna make it a little bit darker in the curves here, because it feels a little bit too faded in my eyes. Maybe add a little bit more saturation instead, and go back into the HSL to fix up this whole yellowy kind of glow. I'm just gonna jump into the blues a little bit too and fix this up and see what difference it can make. Alright, now that we're done with the split toning, the HSL color, and pretty much everything else, lastly you're gonna want to go into the color calibration, and I feel like this is kind of like a hidden feature. It's all the way at the bottom and it's kind of just not, you know, noticeable, and I kind of noticed it last month. It was the first time I used it, and it honestly does a whole lot. Like, you can adjust different hues, different everything. So we're just gonna add a little, bring this down to add a little bit more like a magenta type vibe to it and increase the saturation a little bit. Go to the greens and just mess around with that. And lastly, the blues, we're gonna bring it down a little bit for a more red skin tone, like kind of a pinky type vibe, magenta. And honestly, that's pretty much it. It's super simple, but at the same time it really depends on the situation that you're shooting in, because if I was shooting this in bright daylight, I would not be able to get a photo like this. If I didn't have the light source, I would not be able to get a photo like this. So honestly, split toning can do a lot, but it's also very situational at the same time. So you really have to be careful when it comes down to what you're shooting, how you're shooting it, and if you're planning ahead to edit a specific way. So anyways, that's all for today's video, guys. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and let me know how your split toning goes. Keep pushing buttons, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.